This is right to the root and the core of life's very existence. And when you take that thing out of the oven, when you remove it from the fire or when you place it on the fire, those are the same repeated actions of generation after generation of our ancestors. There's something in our DNA that rings like a tuning fork when that happens. It's created by something that's greater than you, some cosmic intelligence that put all these things together that are all pieces of some mosaic of miracles. A good restaurant should be a school, and it should actually grow and empower the people who work there. The satisfaction of cooking every day, turning a carrot, cutting salmon, portioning foie gras, the mechanical jobs that I do day after day after day after day, the monotony, the routine, the endlessly repeated act to derive deep gratification from the mundane. This is another definition of discipline. What is it? It's a French. It's one French laundry beans. A good friend and a mentor, peer, chef who I very much admire here in the city of Houston recently recommended that I read the French Laundry Cookbook. I was like, oh yeah, you guys should get this thing on. It's like $30 on Amazon. I can't believe it's $30 on Amazon because it's a $60 cookbook, but you know, I don't know how that's working out, but hopefully this guy wins because he deserves to win because he's really set the bar for a lot of things in the industry. Welcome to the Don't Hold Your Breath podcast. We're going to talk about food a little bit today. Fancy that, huh? I'm just going to read the intro here and you'll see kind of, I think, where the connection is pretty quickly. Perfection. Connection, pleasure, and perfection. When you acknowledge, as you must, that there is no such thing as perfect food, only the idea of it, then the real purpose of striving toward perfection becomes clear: to make people happy. That's what cooking is all about. But to give pleasure, you have to take pleasure yourself. For me, it's the satisfaction of cooking every day, tourneing a carrot or cutting salmon, portioning foie gras, the mechanical jobs I do daily, year after year. This is the great challenge, to maintain passion for everyday routine and the endlessly repeated act, to derive deep gratification from the mundane. Say, for instance, you intend to make a barajoule, a stew of artichoke hearts braised with carrots and onions, fresh herbs, oil, and wine. You may look at the artichokes and think, look at all these artichokes I've got to cut and clean. But turning them, pulling off the leaves, trimming their stems, scooping out the chokes, pulling your knife around the edge, that is cooking. That is one of my favorite things to do. Another source of pleasure in cooking is respect for the food. To undercook a lobster and serve it to a customer and have him send it back is not only a waste of the lobster and all those involved in its life, it's a waste of the potential of pleasing that customer. Respect for food is a respect for life, for who we are and what we do. The foie gras preparations in this book are among my favorites because foie gras engenders so many different feelings. It's luxurious, it's rare and expensive, it's visually and texturally rich, a very sensual thing. But the slow cooking short ribs and oxtail and artichoke barajoule bring me some of the deepest pleasures of cooking that I know. The process of braising and the amazing aroma of flavored meat and hot oil is incomparable. Taking the braising pan out of the oven to see the rich color of the liquid and the slow, thick bubble of the deepening sauce, the beautiful clear layer of fat on top, when you've pulled your pot from the oven to regard your braise, to really see it, to smell it, you've connected yourself to generations and generations of people who have done the same thing for hundreds, nay thousands of years. in exactly the same way. My mentor, Roland Anine, told me something long ago that changed the way that I thought about cooking. If you're a really good cook, he said, you can go back in time. Cooking is not about convenience and it's not about shortcuts. The recipes in this book are about wanting to take the time to do something that I think is priceless. Our hunger for the 20-minute gourmet meal, one-pot ease, and pre-washed, pre-cut ingredients has severed our lifeline to the satisfactions of cooking. Take your time. Take a long time. Move slowly and deliberately and with great attention. The idea of cooking and the idea of writing a cookbook are, for me, in conflict. There is an inherent contradiction between a cookbook, which is a collection of documents, and a chef, who is an evolving soul, not easily transcribed in recipe form. A recipe has no soul. You, as the cook, must bring the soul to the recipe. These recipes, a record of my evolution, have been painstakingly documented, but they should be used as tools rather than as exact blueprints. I can tell you the mechanics, how to make a custard, for instance, but you won't have a perfect one if you merely follow my instructions. If you don't feel it, it's not a perfect custard, no matter how well you've executed the mechanics. On the other hand, if it's not literally a perfect custard, but you have maintained a great feeling for it, then you have created a recipe perfectly because there was passion behind what you did. These recipes then, although exact documents of the way food is prepared at the French Laundry, are only guidelines. You're not going to be able to duplicate the dish that I made. You may create something that in composition resembles what I made, but more important, and this is my greatest hope, you're going to create something that you have deep respect and feelings and passions for. And you know what? It's going to be more satisfying than anything that I could ever make for you. So that's the introduction to his French Laundry cookbook, which was written, first printing 1999. Yeah. Classic book. Definitely flipped through it plenty of times. I've seen plenty of the recipes out of this thing. And I mean, hell, I probably have even read that intro, taking it at face value. But I think there's more. There's more there. What do you think? Do you think there's more there? I'm going to read another little piece and then I'll go back to the intro and we'll kind of break some of it down. So he says here, the recipes run the gamut from simple to difficult. Want a real challenge? Try the dish called Head to Toe. Want simple? Make the gazpacho, the lemon tart, or the cream of walnut soup. Most of the recipes are time consuming. They require thought and, most important, involvement on the part of the cook. And therein lies the second gift from Thomas Keller. In this age of both intense interest in cooking and hurried, overly busy lives in which there is never enough time, he urges us to move slowly and deliberately, to fully engage ourselves in cooking, to regain the connection to food that we've lost in our craving for quick fixes, shortcuts, and processed ingredients. Anyone who's worked with me in the kitchen before is probably sometimes painfully perhaps aware that I seem to move very slowly in the kitchen. Some people might even think I'm a slow talker. I don't care. Somebody taught me in a martial arts class a long time ago that slow is good, good is strong, and strong is fast. And what that means is when you're doing a martial arts kata, or like a series of movements, right? If you just want to go and do it and look like the kung fu guy and do all your stuff really fast, you're going to be wrong. You're going to be sloppy. If you get into serious combat, you're going to die or get injured. So you need to do it right. So you have to do it slow first. Once you can do it slow, then you do it good. So slow is good. Once you're good, and you practice over and over and over and over again, then you're going to be able to apply strength to that good. Yeah. It's not just going to be the movements. The movements will have actual impact behind them. Once you get to that point, because you've practiced it so many times and now you can install some impact in it, the natural byproduct of that strength is going to be speed. Your speed is going to flow naturally as part of the process of doing it slow and then good and then strong. So he's saying a similar thing here. In this age of both intense interest in cooking and hurried, overly busy lives in which there is never enough time, he urges us to move slowly and deliberately, to fully engage ourselves in cooking, to regain the connection to food that we've lost in our craving for quick fixes, shortcuts, and processed ingredients. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this thing. When you acknowledge, as you must, that there is no such thing as perfect food, only the idea of it, then the real purpose of striving toward perfection becomes clear: to make people happy. That's what cooking is all about. So, another way of saying this would be that the purpose of life is service to others. That's what life is all about. But to give pleasure or give service to the world, you have to take pleasure yourself. You can't be an example to the world, and you can't be a leader, and you can't serve, which is how to be a leader. You can't serve either your investors or your bosses or your team or, your students or your family or any of that. Like, you can't serve unless you can walk and talk and breathe and actually be good yourself. So you've got to be able to take care of yourself first. The classic example is you can't save a drowning person if you're drowning yourself, right? So you have to first put yourself in a strong position. You have to be secure in your own position and a strong swimmer or attached to some sort of a lifeline or something like that before you can save other people. So this is a similar analogy here. He says to give pleasure, you have to take pleasure yourself. You have to take care of yourself first. The satisfaction of cooking every day, turning a carrot, cutting salmon, portioning foie gras, the mechanical jobs that I do day after day after day after day. The monotony, the routine, the endlessly repeated act to derive deep gratification from the mundane. Okay? To me, this is another definition of discipline. This is not inspiration or motivation or some temporary flare of, oh yeah, I feel like I'm going to do something good. No, this is discipline. This is day after day after day being able to take care of yourself and thus take care of other people. Sometimes paradoxes are the most true. And so if you're taking care of yourself, this is part of our Grand and Sons core values back here, which is discipline equals cultivation. Discipline is going to create cultivation. If you are self-disciplined, you're going to be able to, and you're going to naturally, as a byproduct of your own discipline, you're going to cultivate other empowered people. This is important stuff, man. Jonathan, you were 100% right. Great recommendation. So you intend to make a barjoule. You look at your artichokes. You think, oh my God, I got to cut and clean all these artichokes. But then turning them, pulling the leaves, trimming the stems. How many of you guys have been in kitchens, maybe even who don't even work in kitchens, and you grab a piece of produce or you grab a piece of a product and you look at it and it's just, it's a marvel of God's creation. It's a miracle that how did this thing even happen? And it gives life. Like, it's giving me life. Like, if I don't have this stuff, I'll die. I mean, like, air, water, and food, they're all pretty necessary to be able to survive the human life in this body. So when you look at a piece of food, when you look at a tomato in the middle of August and it's, ripe off the vine, it's warm from the sun, it's kind of rich, red, orangey, beautiful, vibrant color that you can't even capture by the name on a crayon. You can't even describe it. When you cut that thing open, if you haven't tried fasting and then having a tomato, you should try that. Fast for 36 hours and then go find you a tomato if it's August. It's October right now, so maybe go find you like a really nice delicata squash or some figs. Figs are coming around right now. Find one of these natural items that somehow came out of, I mean, I don't care if you call it God or the universe or nature or whatever you want to call it. It's created by something that's greater than you, some cosmic intelligence that put all these things together that are all pieces of some mosaic of miracles. You look at that thing after fasting for 36 hours. I mean, you can smell it from across the room. Like the touch of it, you know, you can almost feel it, like the electrical current into your hands. When you taste it, you're salivating before you even get it to your mouth. It is a true representation of all of God's glory, of the miracle of life and existence, and the cycle that we're so blessed to be a part of. So go do it. Get up and go do it. After you finish watching this video, and make a comment and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. All those things. The foie gras preparations are among my favorites because it's luxurious, it's rare, it's expensive, it's visually and texturally rich, it's a sensual thing. But the slow cooking short ribs, the oxtail, the artichoke barrajoule, the process of braising, the amazing aroma of the flavored meat and the hot oil, when you open that oven and you regard your braise to really see it, you smell it, you've connected yourself to generations of people who have done the same thing. He says for hundreds of years, I'm saying for thousands of years, maybe longer. Man, we don't even know. Like, we don't even know how long cooking has been around. We only know the written records of what we know. The earth is the universe. I mean, come on. This is right to the root and the core of life's very existence. And when you take that thing out of the oven, when you remove it from the fire, or when you place it on the fire, those are the same repeated actions of generation after generation of our ancestors. There's something in our DNA that rings like a tuning fork when that happens. And you can't forget that. Getting carried away. Cooking is not about convenience. It's not about shortcuts. Discipline is not about convenience. It's not about shortcuts. Taking care of yourself is not about convenience. It's not about shortcuts. It's not about the easy road. It's about doing things the right way. And you know what's right. So when you get up in the morning, you should treat yourself like that artichoke, like that oxtail, like that foie gras. You should treat yourself well. Take care of yourself. Respect yourself. The idea of cooking and the idea of writing a cookbook for me are in conflict. There's a contradiction between this collection of documents and a chef who is an evolving soul who's not easily transcribed into recipe form. They both have their utility. I'm going to say this right now. They both have their utility. The recipes are very important. And yeah, you're going to make your own version of it. You won't make the exact same thing as me. That's true in a sense. And in this kind of kitchen, there's also a place for everything. And so there's a place for being able to, and maybe it's more of like a beginner cook works at a place like Houston's, okay? Hillstone. So the Hillstone restaurants are famous for having incredible levels of consistency in their product and their execution. Well, they have recipes and training processes that are making that execution as precise and exact from one place to another as possible. And so that allows the business to grow. It allows money to flow. It allows them to be able to employ more people and thus teach more people, let alone serve the guests and provide, you know, all of the enjoyment that the restaurant itself has. But the restaurant is also a school. And the employees of the restaurant, if they're wise, will take what they learn in the restaurant and they'll apply it to any area that they go into in their life. They might be an engineer, might be an architect, they might be a fashion designer, they might be a makeup artist. Anything that they do in their life, they're going to be able to take stuff from the restaurant and they're going to be able to apply it to wherever they go. The restaurant, a good restaurant, should be a school. And it should actually grow and empower the people who work there. If you don't feel it, then it's not a perfect custard, no matter how well you've executed the mechanics. Okay. I get what he's saying. It's not your artistic creation, and there's sort of levels of gradation of what a custard is. You could say there's infinite ways to make a custard. I would argue that they're finite, but there are a wide variety, as there are, tones of the color red in the spectrum. A seemingly infinite variety of ways to make a custard, and you're going to make yours exactly a certain way. And that's awesome. And if he's talking to a home cook, which in this case, I guess he's writing a cookbook, then yes, make your own interpretation of it. Make it how you like it. Get in there and find out what you do like. Go make a custard and let it break. Well, I had a guy, Franz. What's up, Franz? In Australia. Happy days, mate. I mean, one of the coolest motherfuckers I've ever worked with in my life. Super cool guy. And Franz would make creme brulee. They were like super rich, creamy creme brulees. And that was his way of doing it. And I was always like, that's odd. It's not how I would do that's not how I was taught to do it. But that's Franz's custard. And so that's what Keller's talking about here, is that when you have an opportunity to cook a recipe, or when you wake up in the morning, in this case, when you wake up in the morning and you're going to cook the recipe of your life, when you're going to make the recipe of your destiny, do it your way. There's a bunch of different people out there telling us, oh, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And they're all good ways. But the best way is your way. And it's going to be an amalgamation of all these different ways. And you take the stuff that works for you and you absorb it, and you take the stuff that doesn't work for you and you put it to the side, and maybe it works for somebody else. And maybe if you're at a point where you're helping somebody else learn this process, you can say, you know what, this is the stuff that worked for me, but there's other stuff over here too. You don't have to do it the way that I did it. You can also do these other things, and you can come up with your own type of custard, right? Your own Franz Müller's creme brulee. Yeah, so the recipes, although exact documents of the way that the food is prepared at the French Laundry, they're only guidelines. You're not going to duplicate the dish that I made. You know what? It's going to be more satisfying whatever you make than anything that I could ever make for you. So slow is good. Good is strong. Strong is fast. Thank you, Jonathan, for the recommendation. I'll read some more of this. This is LJ. Don't hold your breath. And I'm out.